Hello, this is attorney Damario Solomon-Simmons, and this is part one of a three-part series dealing with stopping unjust police violence against Black people. And so in this particular series, I'm going to be talking about policies on a local level that you need. I'm telling you that you need to advocate to make sure that they're a part of your city and your police department. As you know, I'm a civil rights attorney based in Tulsa, Oklahoma. However, I handle cases all over the country dealing with police violence, discrimination, bigotry, hate, etc. So in this presentation, I'm going to give you 7 policies that I believe that everyone should be advocating to have a part of their police department. So let's get going and see if I can share my screen here. All right. Okay. So as I stated, attorney Damario Solomon-Simmons, the 7 policies. You know, why do we need to do this? Well, we need to do this because we have seen the epidemic of Black people being killed unjustly and injured unjustly by police officers. Now, this is something that we dealt with throughout our entire time here in America, the 400 plus years, but it's something in the last 10 years that really elevated and spiked, and we see it on the videos and social media and TV, and it's the same old thing, right? We know something happens, it's wrong, and then we have outrage, we have pent-up frustration and anger, and many times we don't know how to get that out. We don't know what to do with it. So, we know the families, we've seen the photos of the families being, completely devastated to learn about what happened and why it happened. I mean, these are just 3 of my clients. The Terrence Crutcher family, man had his hands up in the air. We have down here, the Maurice Pendleton over in Oklahoma City. We have another young lady whose 3 children were shot by the police unjustly. So, the shock and awe of the parents. And then, we have the prayer vigils. And I've been involved in many, many prayer vigils. We've had the marches. I've been involved in many marches, and people getting together and getting the signs and saying this is no more, this doesn't happen again. And all of that is important. And even we have the press conferences. And I've done more press conferences than I can count talking about these issues. Demanding change, demanding charges, demanding accountability. And all of those things are very, very important. All of those things are necessary for us to do. But what I'm talking about, I'm going to share this talk with you before we get on to the presentation. I'm talking about specific proactive advocacy that you can do on a daily basis between you, your friends, and your family to have these policies in place so these things don't happen. Because you don't want to have to just figure out, okay, what do I do after this happened? You want to have a plan for that too, don't get me wrong, but you want to have a plan for how do I try to prevent this from happening. So let's get back to sharing my screen here. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about policies. The first policy, if an officer seriously injures or kills a citizen, that officer must immediately give a statement about what happened. Now, this is very important because as this news article states, most police forces give their officers something they would not give you and I or any other citizen. They give them time to get their story together. They give them time to get a narrative together. It gives them time to actually consult with an attorney. Now, I wish we all had an opportunity to consult with an attorney before the police actually dealt with us, but that's not how they work. But when it's one of their own, they allow them to do that. Some departments give 24 hours, 48 hours. 72 hours. You want a policy that specifically says after a shooting or a serious injury, that officer, he or she must give a statement immediately. Now, they're going to push back and say, well, hey, you can't force us to give an immediate statement against our interests that then can be used against us criminally. And they're right. We're not saying that. We understand we have a 6th Amendment right not to incriminate ourselves, and we agree with that. We want that for everyone. But this police officer, as an employee of the city, has a duty to tell his or her employer what happened. And we want them to do that immediately before they're coached. We want them to do that immediately before they get an opportunity to get their story together. We want to know why this happened, what happened, give us the facts. Secondly, you want the officer, the second policy, you want the officer to articulate clearly, specifically, why the shooting or the use of force was absolutely necessary. We're tired of hearing, oh, I fear for my life. Oh, I thought I don't know what happened. Oh, I thought he's going to hurt me. No, we want to know specifically, why was it necessary that you had to shoot this person 15 times, that you couldn't retreat, that you couldn't have got cover, that you couldn't have waited for backup. Or like in Terrence Crutcher's case, this guy was walking away from Betty Shelby, had his hands up in the air, unarmed, and she shot him from about 10, 12 feet away. Why would you do that? We need to know specifically that night of the incident happens. Number 3, we need to know what's inside of the body and the blood of an officer when they kill or seriously injure someone. We need to know, this is Brother Botham and Gene, who is being represented by 3 of my very good friends, Attorney Darrell Washington, Attorney Lee Merritt, and Attorney Benjamin Crump down there in Dallas, Texas. I do a lot of work with both of those 3 brothers. They're powerful civil rights attorneys. I'm glad to know and call them friends. What we need to have happen, just like to happen in this case, that these officers must know when they shoot someone, when they badly injure someone, they will be drug tested. They will be alcohol tested within 2 hours. Do you know in most police departments, if you have any type of damage, if you run their police car and you break a headlight, you break a windshield, any of the smallest amount of damage, an accident in a police car, they will be drug tested almost immediately to see if the drug or alcohol have anything to do with the accident. What we're saying is our lives, the lives of our children, the lives of our spouses, the lives of our brothers and our sisters, our friends, those loved ones in our community are more important, are more valuable than property. And if they're just, and therefore, if you're going to give a blood or alcohol test after an accident with property, we want a blood and alcohol test after you've taken someone's life, after you seriously injured someone, put them in the hospital, hurt them. You know, this makes sense, right? This makes sense. And why should anybody be against this, right? So we want to know, are you high on cocaine? Did you high on meth? Do you have marijuana in your system? Are you drunk? Is it some type of opiate that altered your perception of what's going on that caused you to be unnecessarily paranoid or unnecessarily aggressive? We have a right to know those things. So you want the policy to state that they will be alcohol or drug tested within 2 hours. Guess what? The officers will know this also. We're trying to use this as a deterrent to deter them from doing this activity, right? We don't want to have to do the marches. We don't want to have to do the prayer vigils. We don't want to have to do the rallies, the press conference, the lawsuits. We want to prevent this from happening. Because I can tell you this, those pictures you saw and I showed you earlier of my clients being devastated, you don't want to be there. You don't want to be there. So these are just some tips, policies that you want to implement so it doesn't happen. Let's give it number 4. Now we know this is a joke, right? We investigate ourselves and we clear ourselves of any wrongdoing. However, across this nation, police officers and police departments are investigating themselves, and that's a no. We say no to that. We know that is not the way it should go. So number 4, the 4th policy that in this presentation, this seminar, is anytime there's a death or serious injury, we want that incident investigated by an independent third party. The independent third party can be another agency within the city, the county. The independent third party can be a state agency, like in Oklahoma, we have the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation. My point here, and what I'm trying to say here is we know that this is not the best way to investigate anything. It's just against human nature, right? That someone's going to investigate an individual that they work with every day, that they're friends with, that they know very well. No, we need to have transparency and accountability in the investigation. The family of the victim, the family or the victim of the violence needs to have that. The officers themselves should want that. They should want the facts and the truth to come out. But just as importantly, us as taxpayers, as citizens in that locale where this incident may have occurred, we need to know that this is something we can rely upon, that this is something that's actually, you can say, yes, I can believe what was stated here, and the facts are as they are, and it's not just made up because, hey, we want to protect one of our own. That gets us right to number 5. If you have someone that has seriously injured or killed someone, that needs to be prosecuted by an independent agency. Now here in New York, as we're looking at here, you can see here on my mouse, in New York, they appointed a special prosecutor. In New York, the special prosecutor was initially appointed was the Attorney General's office. It can be the Attorney General's office in your state. It can be a private attorney that they hire to do the investigation. It can even be an agreement with the local United States U.S. attorney. The point we're making here is it's just like with the officers investigating themselves. You cannot expect that these district attorney officers who work each and every day, all day long with the police officers who use the police officers each and every day to make their cases as witnesses. They know these people. They are on the same side of everything. They're both law enforcement. You cannot expect that they could then do a very vigorous, aggressive, necessary prosecution of one of their friends, buddies, colleagues. It's against human nature. It's bad for our justice system because it creates great doubt in the minds of most, particularly black people and brown people who are on the bad end of this. But most importantly, it's unfair to the victims who've been victimized, brutalized, killed unnecessarily, to know that their case is not given the proper perspective, the proper attention, the proper aggressive nature that it deserves. I'll give you an example. Here in Betty Shelby, who killed Terrence Crutcher, when she was actually prosecuted by the district attorney's office, they didn't stack charges on her like they do regular citizens. They didn't bring in an expert witness, even though she had 3 experts on her side. The state didn't bring in any expert witnesses. That's something they would have not done. They wouldn't have done against a police officer that they were prosecuting. When they put her friends up on the stand and those on the stand, they knew they were lying. They knew they were making up stories, but they didn't aggressively cross-examine them. They put them on their own case and gave them really, kind of softball questions. So we don't want to have that happen. We want an independent investigation. We want independent prosecutions. Number 6, you want to have your city, your locale, your municipality, your county to actually have to have actual liability insurance. And then you want the individual officers to have to carry individual policies. And let me explain. First, with the cities, why that's important. The cities, if they have insurance, then you have someone looking over the shoulder of the municipality, making sure that their policies are in place, making sure their training is up to speed, and making sure that these type of shootings, or trying to help these shootings not occur as frequently, or these type of killings. And why is that? Why is that? Why does the insurance company care? Because the insurance company is profit motivated. They're trying to make money, and they make money by not paying out claims. And if they have to pay out claims and big claims, and that's coming out of their pocket as an insurance company, and they don't like that. And they're going to go to your city, go to the police department, and say, you got to change this, you got to do this, or we're not going to insure you. And if they can't get insurance, then they can't be a police force, and boom, it's a big deal. So because when they don't have insurance, like here in the state of Oklahoma, there are 2 major cities, Oklahoma City and Tulsa, they're self-insured. What does that mean? They pay themselves. So they don't have any incentive to really necessarily move a case along. They don't have any incentive because it's not their money, it's taxpayer dollars. On the individual side of things, the reason you want your individual officers to be required to have liability insurance, the same way I have to have liability insurance, a CPA, your doctor, professional to have individual liability insurance. So if I do something wrong on the case, I'm responsible. It's going to impact me. However, 99.9% of the times when an officer is shown to be done something illegal or wrong and they're sued and there's a judgment, 99.9% of the time the officer does not have to pay any money out of their pocket. Right, the city picks it up. 99.9% of the time, if there's a settlement, the officer doesn't pay anything out of their pocket. The city picks it up. So that doesn't give the officer, they're not feeling any pain. They're not feeling any pain out of their own pocket. So they're not incentivized to do the right thing. But guess what? If they had individual policies, and every time something happened and that officer who was a bad apple had a policy and the premium went up, and that officer is responsible to pay the difference between what the original premium was and to what it went up to, that's paying out of the officer's pocket. If that officer continues to be a bad actor and they continue to have claims that are paid out on that officer, the insurance companies are not going to want to insure that person. They're going to become uninsurable. And it's just like with any other profession. If you need insurance to do the profession, but you are such a bad person, a bad officer that you can't get insurance, guess what? You're out of the profession. And that's what we want. We want the bad cops out. We want the bad cops off the street. We want the corrupt cops out of our neighborhoods. And they can be out of our neighborhoods if they're off the force, and they can be off the force if they have claims, and they have to be responsible for those claims. Number 7, let's get to number 7 here. Officers must receive annual crisis intervention training. What is crisis intervention training? Well, it's just like this case here in Raleigh happened last month where an officer killed a mentally ill man, and he didn't have to. The officer, the individual that was killed, but needed help. He did not need to be killed. He needed help. Crisis intervention, we know that officers on a daily basis are encountering more and more people here in America who have a diminished mental capacity. It could be because that individual is suffering from schizophrenia, bipolarism. It could be they can be depressed. They may have some type of autism, or they might have a diminished mental capacity because they intoxicated PCP, meth, cocaine, alcohol, opiates. This is happening all the time, but these officers are not properly trained on how to deal with these individuals in these scenarios. You want to make sure that your officers are receiving annual training. That means yearly, that they're certifying, that they know how to spot who's having a diminished capacity and how to properly deal with that. Again, looking at the Terrence Crutcher case with Betty Shelby, she admitted that she thought Terrence was having some type of a mental diminished capacity. Maybe he was on something, or he was having a mental breakdown. Yet she didn't do anything that was proper when you're dealing with someone that may be in that type of a state. And we see this happen all over the nation. The Pamela Turner case that just happened down in Houston, the Houston area. The young lady, the woman was schizophrenic. The officer dealt with her as if she was just a normal person. She was not. She was sick, and he killed and murdered her. And that was wrong, unjust, and I hope they get full justice in that deal. Lastly, an officer must receive crisis intervention training. That is also so the officers themselves can understand that they need to have a mental health screening, and that should be mandatory. Annually, they need to know within themselves that they're feeling they're overwhelmed, that themselves that they're depressed, because we do not want officers on the street with a diminished mental capacity, be it for alcohol and drugs that we talked about earlier, or because they're depressed or they're just overwhelmed by the job. This is why this is so important. So we've talked about 7 local policies. These 7 policies, just to recap, is an officer kills someone or is seriously injured, they give a statement immediately. No more of this 2 or 3, 4 days, 5 days waiting around getting your story together. They must give in that statement. They must state why it was absolutely necessary for them to kill that person, hurt that person. They must be able to state why they couldn't back up, they couldn't take cover, they couldn't wait for backup. It needs to be absolutely necessary. They need to, if they hurt someone, within 2 hours be alcohol and drug tested, because we need to know what is causing what was their mental frame of mind when the incident happened. We want to know when they're giving that statement after the incident, it's to an independent person, independent body, someone who does not work with them on a daily basis, someone whose job is to be fair, transparent, and to be accountable to someone else besides the police chief. That's really key. 5, if it rises to a level of a prosecution, that prosecution cannot be done by the local district attorney's office. That is an inherent conflict, and you will not be able to have confidence that the officer is being prosecuted at the maximum aggressive level that is necessary to secure a conviction against an officer. We're not saying someone to be unfair against the officer. We want the officer to get the same treatment as everyone else receives. So that can be your state attorney general. It can be a private attorney. It can't be a private attorney, but state attorney general, or even the Department of Justice, U.S. Attorney's Office. Number 6, we're saying that the city and the individual officers need to have insurance. So when there is a claim that's paid out, from the officer standpoint, they're feeling some actual specific pain internally within their own pocketbook, their own household. And for cities, we want the insurance companies there to be that extra buffer, that standing over their shoulder saying, hey, you're costing us too much money. You need to do this. You need to tighten up your policies, et cetera. And 7, and not least, we want that crisis interventions training, making sure they understand how to deal with individuals with diminished capacity, how they can also receive annually these mental health checks to make sure the officers themselves having diminished capacity, et cetera. So as we get ready to end this seminar right now, I just want to leave you with these thoughts. It's very important for you today to make the determination that you're going to do all that you can, when you can, how you can, to stop the epidemic of Black people being shot and killed by the police, injured by the police. You can do that by getting together with your friends and family and looking at these policies, print out, share this video, print out the slides, share this information. This is just the beginning. This is part 1. I'm going to do 2 and 3. 2 and 3 will be dealing with federal policies, and then 3, we're talking about like how to actually advocate specifically on that. So until then, if you need to reach out to me, you can contact me at Attorney Damario on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can send me an email at info@solomonsimmons.com. You can go to my website, sign up for my academy, sign up to be in my community. That's www.solomonsimmons.com, www.solomonsimmons.com. Until then, Law is my ministry. Justice is my passion. I look forward to seeing you soon. Peace.